So I decided to do a little tutorial on how to balance the Ronin MX gimbal, because I've seen some tutorials online and there's a few small tips that they didn't cover that really made me frustrated. So I hope I get to cover everything. Otherwise, obviously ask your questions below and I'll try and help you out. The first thing is that before you put the camera on, obviously the plate is mounted, make sure you have attached everything you want to attach. Whether you wanted some small microphone for some reason, your batteries, your cards, whatever you're going to attach, because any change in weight will obviously change the balancing, meaning you would have to do it all over again. Same if you have a zoom lens, make sure it's the focal length that you need before you put it on and start balancing it. And most importantly, remember to take off the lens cap. I've so many times balanced the camera just to realize I forgot to take off the lens cap, and when you do it, it's off balance and you have to, rebalance it again. So we've taken that off. The first thing I do, especially with a new camera, I haven't balanced this before, I would slide this down because that just makes it easier, as you'll see throughout here. So I wouldn't have it high up. This axis I would slide down. Then we'll put on the camera like so, and I find just a basic balance, because like you can see, if I let go, it's all over the place. So we slide the plate back and forward until it stays approximately like here, and then the same thing on the roll axis, which is adjusted here by sliding the camera to the side. You can see it's obviously rolling a bit to this side, so we push it the other side slightly, just a little bit here. So we get just a basic balance, because that just makes it easier when we work with the camera. So here we go, let's just tighten it there. So what we're going to do here, the first axis is the tilt axis that we want to balance, and essentially we want the camera to be able to stay in this 90-degree angle. As you can see, when I let go, it falls down and it's falling this way, meaning it's front heavy. If it were the other way, which I'll show you, if we had it higher up, it's quite stiff. Here we go, come on. Sometimes this is really bad design from DJI actually, that they don't just have so you can screw. Sometimes it's really hard to push this up and down, which is not a good design. But let's see here. So we push it up quite high. I'll lock it, and you can see now it will roll the other way backwards. That means it's too back heavy. So if we try and get somewhere in between, which I'll move down here to about, let's say about here, 3. And what's really critical to remember as well is on the side here you have numbers, and you need to make sure on both sides it's on exactly the same number. If it's just slightly off, that can really mess up your balance. So it's on 3 here. I'll lock that, and I make sure it's on 3 on the other side, and we lock that too. So let's see here. We put it first. You'll put it a bit more, and it looks like it's still tilting forward a bit. As you can see, it's still tilting, so maybe I need to push it a bit more. When it's tilting forward, you have to push it upwards. So let's see here. You can see it's tilting forward. So that means upwards. If it was tilting backwards, you need to go down. So let's just push it up a little bit more. Make these adjustments quite small when you're this close. So let's try here. And as you can see, it stays there. Let's put 90 degrees. And it's fine that it's tilting that way. Rolling, sorry. It stays at 90 degrees here. So that means we got that right, this axis here, which is perfect. So basically the next step is when you put it less than 90 degrees, like here, or we put it down here on the straight, you can see it's still rolling backwards. However, it's no longer this axis because it was fine at the 90 degrees. So the next part of this tilt axis that you would, if it's still, when you have it less than 90 degrees here, tilting backwards, that means the plate we have to slide it a bit forward. And of course, if it was the opposite, we would reverse it. So we'll slide the plate just slightly forward, make adjustments very small, very, very small. And let's see if that works. So yeah, it does. So of course it's still tilting or rolling, sorry. So let's adjust that a little bit, because otherwise it gets very confusing to see. So let's just do that. I'll do that properly afterwards, but you can still see the side here works perfectly. And let's just see if we have here, it's rolling a little bit upwards. Yeah, look, it's still a bit back heavy, so it means we need to slide this just a tiny bit forward, and it really is tiny bit. So let's see here. Yep, now it stays perfectly. Also when it's less than 90 degrees, stays perfectly on the tilt. So that was the last adjustments was made here. Now obviously the roll could be off, so the roll looks pretty good, but let's test it. So look, this is why you can't just count on the roll is fine by having it in the center, because it could be, but if you move it just a slight bit, then you can see that over here, if I let go, it's tilting, rolling to this side. And that means again, we have to adjust the plate to the opposite side. So we open that, and again, just tiny adjustments at this stage. That might already be enough, just a tiny millimeter. Let's see if that works. So in the middle is fine. Let's see if it will stay. Yep, look at that. It stays. And does it stay when it's off axis here too? Yeah, it does. So now I can position the camera any place and it will just stay without the motor on, because it's in perfect balance. So to recap, you start by moving this down. Make sure everything is on the camera that you need, and the lens cap is off. You then first do this axis here, which is the tilt axis, where you have to get the camera to be able to stay in this 90-degree angle. So you adjust it up and down until you have that. Once you got that, you do less than 90 degrees and you'll see, does it tilt, backwards? If it do, you slide the plate forward. If it tilts forwards, it's front heavy, then you tilt the plate a bit backwards until you also less than 90 degrees can just position it anywhere on the tilt and it stays there. And the last thing is then the roll, where you obviously adjust in down here to either direction, and make sure not just to test it at the center, but also if it's a bit off axis that it still stays. And when it does, then you have the perfect roll axis too. The last thing to test is where you roll backwards here, and it's perfect now. What could happen is as you roll up, it start going to the side or the other side, and that adjustment is basically by screwing here, you unclamp and screw it, so this will move forward or backwards. It's obviously perfect balance now, so that's absolutely fine. So that is kind of a quick tutorial on how to balance your Ronin, and in the next tutorial I'll show you the app and how to work correctly with the app. So I hope you enjoyed this.